Gates open in lonely places where no human hearts remain. And from those gates,
Suzume?
disaster comes.
Hi there. You're in the way. Goodbye.
What the hell's going on?
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And my name's John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. It's May, so you know what that means. It's anime. During anime, we look at all your favorite anime series, and on today's episode, we're taking a special look at Suzume, a modern action-adventure road story where a 17-year-old girl named Suzume helps a mysterious young man close doors from the other side that are releasing disasters all over in Japan. John, I was pretty excited for this movie. This is one of those ones back in, I think it came out like 2022, around there. I didn't actually see it. I guess I don't know, I missed a lot of anime films during that time, so it was kind of nice to go back and watch this. I do like Makoto Shinkai. I believe that's how you say his name. I do like his work. Are you familiar with some of the other movies that he's done and stuff like that?
Yeah, Your Name I liked quite a bit, and I think that was the big one that put their name maybe out in the West, right? That we might have heard of that.
Your Name, Weathering with You was the big one.
Yep.
Those are the two that I've seen. And then was it 0.5 centimeters per second?
Yep.
I saw bits and pieces of that one, so I won't speak for that one. But I did enjoy his other two works. I think he's definitely up there with some of the newer directors that are kind of, I want to say, taking the reins from like the Ghibli studios that are becoming more identifiable as they come over here in the West. And, most of their movies are pretty good. Suzume, though, man, I gotta tell you, for as beautiful and as amazing as this movie looks, and on a technical level, how spectacular it is, I just couldn't get into it. I had a lot of problems with it, man. I don't know if it just wasn't for me, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, I didn't really have a great time with this one, especially I think with all the hype of his other films. I was expecting something else, and I didn't get it, man. I really didn't. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it at points, but they're especially towards the middle, because this is a coming of age road movie, like you said. And I did like seeing, this young woman go out and kind of learn who she is and what her place is in the world, which I think is the major theme, right? Finding yourself and accepting your role, right?
I would say, that's one of them for sure. I don't think it was my favorite theme in this one, but yeah, I would say that was definitely one of them, sure, yeah.
But there were times in the middle of that adventure where it kind of felt overly long to me.
Yeah.
It kind of just kept going.
Yeah, there's a lot of pacing issues, a lot of just issues, I think, just with the story in general. But before we dive like too much into that, because I think that's where it sounds like, I'm surprised too, actually. I didn't know if you were going to be on the same page as me, but I think a lot of our criticism is going to lie there. But the main stuff I have to praise this movie. The animation is just so damn beautiful in this movie, to the point where I can't believe how far we've gotten and come with animation, especially from the Japanese side of things with the blending of 2D and 3D. We've seen studios before try to just literally just have like a 3D animation in there or just 2D. I have to tell you, though, the work that's done in this movie, the blending of the two, I'm not talking, again, either individual. The blending of the two is what really makes this movie come alive. There was one scene in particular, and again, not even so much the character design, but I think the world itself. There's a car that's running, and you see it like running on the highway. You actually see like the bumps in the road. Like you see like the shocks like jolting in the car up and down as they're driving. And I'm like, holy crap, we've really come that far with that level of detail for this kind of movie. It's just wild, man. It really is to me.
Yeah, that's I think the hallmark of this director is that you're going to see something beautiful, and also that at least tries to pull at your heartstrings, right? I think that in one way or another, something to do with emotionally impactful and beautiful
right.
display.
Yeah, and it really is. It's just, again, I can't really praise it enough. Even just the environmental design, everything in this movie is just a sight for the eyes to look at. And I dare you to find another studio. Maybe Ghibli's like the only other one as far as Japanese animation that we've seen come this close to that level of detail in animation.
And from a completely different angle. I
exactly.
think that these movies are like cleaner and slicker.
Yes.
And
more modern. Yes.
More modern looking. But you know, I agree that they are at that level of execution. Like there is CG in this movie, but it's not like some instances where it's like, there it is, there's where they saved a little money, right? This is like seamless, everything looks good.
And even when you see CG, I think that's the biggest criticism you could argue. There's a giant worm that erupts from this door that comes to cause the earthquakes that happen within the different areas of Japan, the different regions. I guess that could be like your argument, like that doesn't look so hot every now and then. But even then, I think it's stylized just enough to where you can ignore that, right? Everything is just so beautiful. It's crazy to me. It really is. I can't gush over that enough. And I want to gush as much as I can because we're gonna have some conversation in a little bit. I liked how you brought up modern is a big thing for this movie, and I think in a lot of especially a lot of Japanese anime films and series, I feel like we've lost a lot of like a modern time period. And I do like how this movie really does reflect on a lot of modern events and technology. How crazy was it to see like Twitter and Instagram just like pop up in an anime movie? I was kind of blown away by that. I don't know if I'm just showing my age a little bit, but I was like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an aside too, but it was kind of interesting to see that actual brand names were used. I know that a lot of anime is like infamous for having joke names on the McDonald's. This just has McDonald's. And like you mentioned, it just has social media. It has all the things that if this girl was going on this journey in this year, these would be elements of that journey. And actually, that was one of the parts of the movie that I really liked is the how social media and how tracking down the part of the point of their journey was via social media. It was entertaining to see how they approached that.
Yeah, and again, just that whole concept, I think, the idea of a team up, buddy cop, almost kind of storyline, like a buddy adventure, I really do like that. You don't get that too often in anime. Usually it's just one person, seldom going on a journey and then gathering a bunch of people. But the idea, it's like this unlikely duo has to go on this adventure. And then, like you said, use social media, use clues to kind of solve where these events are going to happen and try to prevent them. Very cool concept. I'm not going to take away from that. I really do think that was really enjoyable. And I do think, even though I think the main story, the love story here, I think is the weakest part. And I promise we're going to talk about that. I do really like the other narratives that were going on, especially the feeling of loss and like dealing with loss. And I really wish they kind of dived more into it. It's not overall strong throughout the entire movie. I would argue it comes like towards like the latter end of this movie. Like the last third is really when we really get nailed home with the feeling of loss and emotion. There's a particular scene with Suzume and her aunt, and they have this interaction between the two, which is so emotionally dark and just like unexpected. And I was really waiting for some kind of like fallout and some kind of like other emotion to come out. It's just kind of like glanced over like, oh, okay, we're done with that. And like, oh, okay, cool. But again, I don't want to give too much because it's kind of a spoiler, but the interaction between the two is you could see someone having these emotions and having to deal with those emotions. And again, I wish the movie kind of dealt a little more with that maybe. That's something I would have liked a little more.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And I did like, because I think, like I said, I think the main theme of this movie is like finding yourself. And again, it's a spoiler, but that becomes like symbolically, and also literally finding yourself, and accepting those parts of yourself that might not be the ideal self. And yeah, those were some of my favorite parts of the movie. Although, not to spoil too much of the story, but I think that there were little moments that kind of betrayed that, where it's like characters had to accept a role that they did not want, but this is what I have to do. And it's like, well, where's that person's happy ending, right? Suzume kind of gets one, but...
Yeah. I guess that's where we're gonna get into like the big negatives. I will also add just real quick before we super get into that. I did like the soundtrack too. I thought the soundtrack was actually very nice. Most of his movies do have a really great soundtrack. I did watch the dub version, which I thought was funny. They had the one character was singing on the radio. There was a scene where they were kind of like the radio was playing different songs that were kind of conveying the emotion that was going on the scene, and the I'm not sure who he was as far as the voice actor, but he was singing the Japanese version. And I don't know, I thought that was funny. Usually I feel like they try to be clever and change the song. He's like, no, I'm just going to sing the Japanese version. I'm like, I appreciate that.
We're in Japan.
We're in Japan. I appreciate that. Mucho respect for doing that. But
yes.
So the big issue, John, for me, this is a case of, and I don't know how deep I should go into this as far as, I don't know the director personally, obviously. Makoto Shinkai, he's done a lot of great work up to this point. Weathering with You, I think, is fantastic. Your Name was, regarded as a highly regarded anime film. I feel like he's gotten, I don't know if he's gotten comfortable or just kind of like, this is my niche and this is kind of what I'm going to stick to. And I feel like this movie was a mixed bag of things where he stuck to his niche, sure, but he also threw way too many things at the wall as far as themes and different ideas. And honestly, for me, I don't think any of them stuck because there's no payoff for anything. The supernatural elements that are in the movie, super interesting, super cool, especially with these idea of these guardians have to go around and stop these events from happening to try and protect Japan. Briefly talked about for like 2 seconds, no more than that. And I'm not a person that needs everything explained to me like I'm a child, but sometimes I need a little bit more just to like really engross myself because it is super interesting. I do want that. There's the other issue with this is there's a lot of themes in this movie, like you said, acceptance and stuff like that, bereavement, sacrifice, the idea of the door being like a door to our lost self and having to accept that as our loss and move on from it. Again, really cool themes, really interesting ideas and metaphors, but they're just bare bones, right? I think everything in this movie, even the emotional heart pulls that are in this movie, they're just surface level. They're just there to get a reaction out of you and move on, but there's nothing deeper for me. And that's what I think was missed a lot.
And maybe that they, more than in his past work, just felt like a beat that you throw in there. It's that point in the movie where somebody has an emotional revelation. Here you go. They're going to cry a little bit. And then we get to the happy ending.
And I think that's like in my perspective here, that for the love story, that's the worst thing you can do with a love story. I did not feel the love story in this movie whatsoever. And, that's supposed to be one of the main things, these two characters coming together, Suzume meeting this stranger, falling in love with the guy who's turned into a chair and falling in love with him. There's no scenes dedicated to really any of their one-on-one time, except a scene like here or there for like 2 seconds. Right.
I did appreciate the commitment to the bit of keeping him a chair
respect
for the majority of the movie. And that I was actually very surprised by. And I kind of enjoyed the ways that they implemented one of your main characters is just a chair that's running around in the world. I liked that. I liked the way it was executed. But you're right. You don't get a sense of a relationship really building between the two of them.
And this is how it feels to me. It feels essentially to me how they built this love story is they know each other throughout the whole journey. And suddenly they use the most cliche thing, which is a dramatic event, meaning the character's going to die or is about to die or put in a perilous situation. And suddenly you love them and are madly in love with them and whatever the case is. I think that's corny and cliche. And I don't like that. I think we've moved beyond that. And I expect a little bit better from this director, I think. Or maybe that's just me expecting too much. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, but I will, on the positive side, overall, I will say that this movie went down pretty easy.
It did. It was digestible.
For the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't leave me really thinking about much, but it was fun to watch the capers that she was, going through. Except for the times in the middle when I was like, okay, I started looking at my watch a little bit, like, all right, like pick it up a little bit, please.
And that leads into like the last couple things here for me. Just the third act is super rushed, and I think that's ironically, besides the beginning of the movie and then the end of the movie, are super interesting. I really was like really locked in, like you said, kind of like with both parts, like the initial concept with the door and what's going on, super cool. Okay, then we kind of coast in the middle, and it's super choppy, super missed pacing, and honestly feeling a little inconsequential, like he didn't really know what to do with the story. And not that those stories aren't interesting, like he's telling these really relatable stories, meeting these characters along the way, this kind of special like road trip journey, but they don't connect to anything. They really super feel inconsequential by the end. And then you get to the third act,
where you have monumental things happening,
right?
And it's like, well, this is interesting, but you could have built to this a little better in the middle rather than, as much as I enjoyed seeing the little side stories that she went on, they didn't really contribute to this grand ending that we're having. Both her emotional expression, her love story, and the sort of insane, fantastical battle, between these great beings that's going on.
Right, and I should be more invested by that time. I shouldn't be waiting till the third act where, the end of this movie where you're just dumping all this information on me about the backstory, the lineage, all these emotions you're trying to shove into me to have for these characters. I should have had it along the way. Like, I know Suzume is a fun character and I like her. She's interesting. She's fun. I get that. I like her. But you didn't do more than that. I already knew that by, less than halfway through the movie. That's kind of really what you were focused on.
And I think you have two parts. You have your like grand adventure fantasy story, and then you have your small real people stories. And it gives you some idea of these are the people that we're trying to help with our actions.
Sure.
But then on the other hand, it's not getting you to that end point. Like, you could honestly split this out into two movies, a nice little road story and a crazy fantasy, and maybe both of them would have been more successful.
Yeah, or it might have worked better as like a miniseries, something like that. Maybe like just a couple, short movies or something like that connected together. I don't know. I know anime is not typical for doing that. Usually either you're one and done or you have a 12 episode anime. So, but again, I think maybe expanding more upon it definitely would have been more interesting, but maybe not even so, because my last big takeaway before we wrap up here, I've seen it before, and I hate to be that guy, it's just a lot of it, for as cool as it looks and the ideas are interesting, I've seen all this kind of done before and better, even by the same director at this point. His other works kind of do a much better job with the romantic arcs, and I've seen time travel. It's not really a spoiler. Time travel is involved with this. I've seen that done cliched a couple times now at this point. I've seen it before. I've seen it done better, so I'm not sure what much is left for me besides the beautiful animation and a couple fun scenes here and there. I really expected better from this director. I hate to tell you.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little better than you did, but I can't disagree with you that I got more out of his other movies.
Yeah, and I don't want this to, I know this sounds like super harsh and super terrible. I still think it's a well-made movie. It's well constructed. I think if you watch it just casually, I think you'll have a good time. If you just like this director, again, I think you will find work from Makoto Shinkai's work. You will find enjoyment out of this, but just kind of be prepared.
If you haven't seen if there are other movies, though, you might want to watch those first.
Right, and I think if you're familiar with other directors around this time, some of the big hotter directors in the anime world right now working, we've seen other great movies like A Silent Voice was a really great movie. There was a couple other ones too. I'm trying to remember. Like Wolf Children, stuff like that. There's these other really great anime directors that are coming out. So you kind of can't slouch, I think, at this point. And that's what this feels like. Again, I know the Japanese audience and the American audience are two very different things. I think the Japanese audience is probably going to eat this movie up, and I think they did for the most part when it came out, and they probably really loved it. That's why maybe over here it was kind of less fanfare, even though it was nominated for Best Animated Picture. So I could just be completely wrong. Wouldn't be the first time, but I think we kind of talked enough, man. Let's go ahead and give our final scores on this one. I'm gonna go ahead and give Suzume a 6 out of 10. I don't think it's terrible. I just really didn't have a great time with it. And maybe, like you said, maybe there's part of that's because I've seen his other work. I've just seen it done better before. Even if it's not this director, by other directors, I've seen it done better. That's not to say, though, I think you're going to have a good time. If you like the shoujo storytelling of kind of anime with a little bit of action, adventure, the love story's interesting. The fantasy, I think, is really cool. Again, it's beautiful to look at if you really want to just talk about that. I think you'll have a good time for the most part. Just, I wouldn't expect anything above average, in my opinion. I wanted it to be more, just unfortunately just fell a little short for me. John, what do you think?
I definitely liked it a bit better than you, although I won't say that this is the greatest animated movie I've ever seen. If I had to rate it out of a 10, I'd give it like a 7.5. Okay. I definitely enjoyed it. At the end of it, it brought me back a little bit, but there was seriously some times in the middle, as much as I was liking, seeing her experiencing all these new things, that I was like, what are we doing here? Where are we going?
Right, and it's funny. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. Enjoyable for sure. I would recommend, if you have the time to watch it, but I wouldn't prioritize over the director's other work.
Yeah, again, this would be probably one of the latter ones on my list that I would check out. Definitely Your Name, Weathering with You, that 0.5 centimeters per second. Check those out first if you have a chance. This isn't one you need to rush into, but I don't think you'll have a terrible time. I just think you'll have a time. Does that make sense? You'll have a time.
You can have a better time.
Yeah, you can always have a better time. But what I need to know down in the comments below, or what do you guys think? Are we off our rockers? I have no idea what I'm talking about. I was a little more harsher than John. So if you wanna nail me up here and tell me what I did wrong, let me know. Maybe I'm just a little too much on it. That does happen. But what did you guys enjoy about it? Again, animation's come so far. What are your favorites of this director? What other stuff did you like from him? How would you rank his movies? That could be something interesting I'd like to see. Maybe that would help some others make a decision on what they should be watching. But again, comment, like, subscribe, do all that jazz for us. It's Real Anime, so we will continue on the series looking at some other anime works throughout the month. And we are the Real Movie Guys. My name's Kevin. That guy's John. We'll see you in the next one.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, we should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.